So how to sell to humans in a data-driven world, data or data, whatever your preference is in terms of pronunciation. I mentioned a bit earlier in the preparation that we're connecting the what to the why. The data is the what, and the humans decide why. So the more you understand what's important to the individual that you're speaking to, then you'll understand the what and the why. So I gave off this recording, I gave some background about me in terms of my history, my profession, and some of the things that are interesting to me. That's the data that you use before you even have a conversation with me. So as part of your preparation for any call, for any meeting, for any Zoom, spend some time and find out a little bit more about that individual. A simple example is separating in terms of generations. Now, generations do not mean that everybody is dropped into one bucket, but what it does mean that your context for the way you were educated, the way you were raised, the way you were integrated into the workforce is probably going to be similar to other people in your age group. So use that information for context. Within ourselves, again, I'm going to go back to a little bit of neuroscience. As you're preparing, understand for yourself what you want from the conversation or from the individual. Understand that first so that you're not conflicted when you get to the conversation and you realize that that person is nowhere near someone that you might want to have a long term relationship with. That's key. I would say it is much more it's much easier to have a relationship with the client the more closely your values are aligned. And if I'm honest, the more mature you get in age, the less tolerant you are for the conflict that comes when there's a lot of misalignment. So understand the type of people that you like to work with. Who gels with you? Who do you want to support? Who do you want to make successful or help to make successful? The person that you want to help to make successful is probably the type of person that resonates with you in terms of your value system. Um, the trust factor is that individuals will align with people that they trust much quicker than individuals that they're still skeptical about. Sorry, and remembering that trust is they are going to decide whether they're going to hand over an exchange of dollars and cents or whatever currency it is, pounds or pence. So that trust factor creates a barrier between when they make a decision that they're going to invest in you by paying for your product or service, or if they decide to say, you know what, I'm not quite ready for this relationship to develop to the stage of exchange of funds, and I'm going to hold off for a bit. So the quicker you can get to the trust in the relationship, that person is more comfortable, regardless of how much you know, how many countries you've lived in, you know, what your background is. That trust factor, in, especially in today's world, is really important. And why I say in today's world is because social media, every platform is full of individuals who are living masked lives. I won't say fake lives, they're living masked lives. And that's being uncovered on a daily basis. We thought one thing was true, but in fact, we realize there are untruths in what you say or what your background is and what your history is. So if you can eliminate any doubts about your competence, about your ability to deliver what you say you can deliver, you're going to quickly eliminate any additional barriers. And then that ties in closely with the belief that you can fulfill whatever you are going to commit or promise to fulfill. So those two tie closely together, trust and belief. Relevance, what's relevant to the individual that you're looking to establish a professional relationship. And I'll give you an example. As an individual who is closer to retirement, when I see people pop into LinkedIn and say, "Oh, I can streamline your business and target you revenue of £5 million," and I'm thinking, well, hold on a minute, you have no idea what my priorities are right now. My priorities are completely different now than they were 30 years ago. You know, I have two adult children. My two adult children are not, dependent on me is the word I'm looking for. So that makes a difference in terms of what my priorities are. And then reliability is, self-explanatory. When do you show up for meetings? Do you show up promptly? Do you show up tardily? Some people are fine. If you're a few minutes late, some people it really irks them. For me, again, going back to the professional background that I described, timekeeping was not optional. I didn't have an option to be even a second late because in that time it was a requirement. It was a non-negotiable. There were no blooper reels. There was no space for error. So the way I attend meetings and present myself is quite different. Now, a lot of that is a lot more lenient in today's world, but you'll find that if you understand where people sit or stand in that space, it'll make how you commit and how you present yourself quite differently. There was no dress down Friday in my workspace, for example. So just to give you kind of some ideas about what, how people think as you present yourself or as you are, trying to bring them through that journey of trust and acceptance. And then delivery, you get one shot, one first shot to make it right and exceed expectations the first time. If you miss that first shot, you're constantly on the back foot. So the trust is diminished immediately. And then the next time the person has a bit more doubt. And as they say, kind of in baseball terms, kind of the three strikes. Each time you don't deliver, the less likely you are to be able to grow your network through that person by referrals or through word of mouth conversation, when they're out and they say, well, who do you know? There's loads of that going on right now because people don't want to invest blindly or to trust blindly. So there's loads of who do you know, who can fill this void, who can provide a service. But I want to ask somebody who has already tested that water before I make a mistake. Does that make sense? Not perfect. Okay, so a couple of key salesy terms that you'll hear repeatedly the more you spend in the sales space is, and I call this the who, the managing your time. Because if you spend time on the wrong people, too much time on the wrong people, then that's going to be a lot more time wasted than if you focused on the right people at the right time. And that doesn't mean that you discount people. It just means where do you spend your energy at this point in time and with whom? So in sales terms, people call them qualified and unqualified leads. And that's the first marker. And you've probably heard that. And if you're qualified lead, they can afford the product, understand the problem, they trust you, they're open and they're ready. It doesn't mean that they're going to sign right away. You still have to develop that relationship. You still have to demonstrate your competency, probably. But right away, if you're, let's say, for example, you're selling $1,000 teapot, and you know that that person probably can't afford $1,000 teapot, then you have to really question why you're spending as much time in that space. So qualified leads, you've done a little research, job title, background, experience, maybe, whatever you can find on that person that fits what you're looking to provide in terms of a product or a service, then that qualifies your lead. And then you can spend some more time on this bucket of people. I use the term bucket a lot. Unqualified leads, then you're not sure if they're ready. Maybe you met them once, you met them at an event. Maybe they sent you a message blindly and they said they're interested in your work, but you're not sure yet. They're curious. They might still be a little bit hesitant. They might have some internal blocks. They might, need a little bit more trust and commitment in terms of awareness of your ability, but they're not emotionally committed yet. They're not at the stage where, if one or two meetings or one or two conversations and you'll be signed off on. So the power of walking away is understanding that you're going to nurture those relationships, but that you're going to spend less time in that space. And then in terms of managing effort, this is a common funnel. At the bottom, that's where there's probably going to be less people. And those people are the people that are closest to making a commitment. the what usually happens is the people at the top, the broad masses of people in the cold bucket, they will ask loads of questions. They'll probably dominate your time. They probably send loads of emails, text messages, WhatsApp messages. What about, what if, what happens, how could we, does this work? Which is fine. But remember what I said earlier, managing your time, the person who is the closest to signing is the people that you want to make sure you prioritize the conversation. That's why they say for the cold leads, the cold individuals, a freebie. Here's a little article I wrote about it. Digest that. And if you have any questions, come back to me or book a call. And even if have that call, make it a paid call if you really need to. Book an exploration call. It doesn't always have to be free. It could be something minimal, $20, but they have to have an investment to have your time. If you really want to kind of narrow down people who are serious, trust me, put a charge on that initial conversation because they will have to make a commitment, even at entry level, in order to get through that funnel. This is a quick cycle of how people decide. And this is why there's so much social media. This is why the paid ads are important, because the awareness is I'm just firing stuff at you. I probably know you live in my city, or I probably know you're a school teacher, or I know you're a lawyer. So I'm just going to fire stuff at you because you're in that category. And I'm going to think that you're going to come down to interest. The more you see the more you see me speak, the more you see my product, the more you see what I can do. And then you're going to go down the funnel into decision and action. But most people will go through that entire cycle step by step before they get to a decision point. And that ties in with a conversion rate because there'll be loads of people in the top and then they'll funnel down, and your conversion rate is how many of the people have you converted to a sale. And then finally, in terms of execution, where you take the data, you decide what's important, and you use that to leverage it. So you put the people into categories, not in front of them, and you don't share that with them. This is you privately. You're controlling your time and energy. So if you put the people into categories, you spend the most of your time with the people who are qualified, who are hot leads, who can afford it, prepared, understand, trust. You put those people in a priority state so that you can move them to that final point of execution. And that means the sale is final and the money is in your account. The other people, you put them into a separate category. And you can check in with them. You can say, you can also automate it. Now we're talking about AI. You can automate it. You can say, oh, each 6 months, I want you to just send a follow-up email to this group of people and just say, oh, I'm just checking in with you to see, if there's anything else that I can provide to help you to make a decision. And that's it. You file it away. But the temptation is to kind of draw people in. And if I just tell them one more thing, I'm going to move it along. But in reality, that's more time wasting on your side. So you're leveraging data for influence and trust building, and you're creating your own data sets to manage and control your time and effort. Does that make sense? So I know we are at time. So let me stop share. Humans will never not get excited about attention from another human. That's how we're built. And the less attention a human is getting from other people, you're right in the front of the line. And intellectual attention.
Mhm.
All right, I
Thank you.
hope that helps. Was that
Yeah, no, this
helpful?
is good.